Hi, I am Allie Kavanaugh, and I've been a professional working artist for the past 25 years. For the past 17 years, I have been specializing in using watercolor on alternative surfaces. Today, I am thrilled to be partnering with Blick Art Materials to share a demonstration using some of my favorite products. In this session, I'll be painting a portrait of my granddaughter in front of a red door. And I'll be using the Allie Kavanaugh Portrait Color Set by Core Watercolor. This is a universal portrait set, so all complexions can be painted with these 6 colors. I'll be using Blick Master Stroke brushes and ampersand gesso board prepared with Core watercolor ground. Now I always use a sponge roller brush to apply this ground. While most watercolors work on paper, I'll show you how to give your watercolors a unique look and feel by using an alternative modern surface. Let's get started. So here is my cured panel. It's been cured for about 2 weeks, and you can see my very light pencil drawing on there. Then I'm going to be setting up the Allie Kavanaugh Portrait Colors set by Core. I always like to start with Payne's Gray at the top, Ultramarine Turquoise, Sap Green, Perylene Crimson, Peril Orange, and Nickel Azo Yellow. And that's the order that I line them up. I am going to start out by using the Perylene Crimson as my underpainting color. And with this, I'm just going to establish some basic value and shapes. I'm using the very tiny brush, a 00, to get some details. I'm a big fan of Blick brushes. Those of you that are familiar with my work and familiar with my materials know that I have used the synthetic rounds by Blick for many, many years. The thing that I like about the synthetics is I feel like they don't hold on to as much dust, and this works really well for the modern surfaces, the panels, and the watercolor grounds, because I feel like they attract dust a little bit more than paper. So I find that I have the best luck with the synthetics. And then the rounds. I like the rounds because I feel like I have a lot of control, and I love the big variety. So like the little tiny rounds for me can give me, with almost like a little bit of dry brushing, can give me a lot of the details. And then the medium size rounds, like I'm using right here, they hold enough water where I can get a really nice sweep of color for a bigger area like the skin. And the bigger round brushes are great for holding a lot of water, not quite as much as like a mop brush would hold, but enough water to give me expressive blooms, but still give me control too. Let's talk a little bit more about the paint and the paint set and the portrait set. So with this portrait set, I'm able to paint the darkest complexions to the lightest complexions. So I'm able to paint darkest hair, skin, and eyes all the way to the lightest hair, skin, and eyes, just with these 6 colors. And the portrait I'm doing today is fair skin, very, very fair skin. So what I do for fair skin is I lean into the Peril Orange, the Nickel Azo Yellow. The combination of that orange and yellow give a fair skin like that sun-drenched, like golden hour glow. For the shadows on fair skin, I like to use a combination of the Sap and Perylene, and then I sort of push a little bit of that Payne's Gray in there just to give it like a cool variation. So I've got like warm shadows and cool shadows. So I'm going to move between Sap, Perylene, and Payne's Gray. You might be wondering what is different about Core watercolors. And the thing that is different is that they have a patented binder called Aquazol. And the thing that's great about Aquazol, especially for modern surfaces, is that it does not embrittle over time. The colors are more intense, Aquazol was used for many years in conservation, so it has incredible archival qualities. If you look at gum arabic as opposed to Aquazol, gum arabic can turn sort of a amber color over time, and Aquazol remains as clear as water. The thing you'll find with the modern watercolor panels and the watercolor grounds is that the paint sits on top of the ground, kind of like the synthetic papers. The paint does not absorb down into the panel. So adhesion is so important. And the thing is that the Aquazol, as opposed to the gum arabic, the Aquazol does not embrittle. And the watercolors with the gum arabic binder, they embrittle over time and it will flake off of the panel. So it's very important that, even if you have some old watercolors that you like and you would want to mix them a little bit with that Aquazol, that will help. And then also make sure that you varnish your watercolors very well. We're going to talk about that in just a second. For those of you that don't know, Core watercolors are made by Golden Artist Colors. And Golden is known for their amazing acrylic products. So I know some watercolors use a little bit of acrylic, and the thing that is very exciting is that all of the Core watercolors are compatible with all of the Golden acrylic products. So that is something that is very, very cool, especially for those of you that like to do more experimental things with watercolor. Let me talk a little bit about the panel that I'm using. For watercolor grounds, and I've tried a lot of the different watercolor grounds, but any watercolor ground that I have used, I always put it on gesso board. The reason why I like gesso board is that it has the ampersand quality and ampersand standards. It is a hardboard that is then treated with their patented Archivaseal, and that Archivaseal blocks any of the tannins moving through into the paint. It's got the layer of gesso on top of that. So I find that that gesso layer receives those watercolor grounds very well. It adheres, it bonds very, very well. If you cannot find Core watercolor ground, you can also use Golden absorbent ground. They are the exact same product, just under two different labels. Here I have the finished painting. Now this is unvarnished. You can see a lot of unevenness on that door. Do you see how some spots are shiny, some are matte? This is my favorite spray varnish that I use on all of my watercolors. It's the Krylon Gallery Series UV Archival. You can see I've sprayed it here and it is wet. It goes on shiny and then it dries to a beautiful matte, even finish. It gets rid of all those little glossy spots from thicker areas of paint. It brings out the brilliance of the pigment, the transparency of the pigment, and it eliminates the need for any additional framing. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that my demonstration has inspired you to try something new with your watercolor practice. If you are interested in learning more about any of the products I used today, you can find the products on Blick Art Materials website and also on my own website, alliekavanaugh.com. The most important thing is that you keep experimenting and stay inspired. Thanks again for watching. Happy painting!